Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Morgan. On today's episode, we have yet another very special guest. He is one of my coaches, one of my business mentors. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about how to use this quote unquote downtime to your advantage. And I think this guy is one of the perfect people to have a conversation with this about. And he is, like I mentioned, my coach. So Brian, you want to go ahead, give the people a little bit of a better introduction about who you are, what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate this. I'm honored to be on the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. I've listened to several episodes and feels good to be here. So, yeah, I definitely want to chime in and share some thoughts on everything that's going on and what we can be doing right now as coaches and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But a little background. So I first started off in CrossFit, similar to you, where I opened a CrossFit affiliate when I was just 23 years old, right out of college. No business experience whatsoever. And this was 10, over 10 years ago now. So the gym would have been 10 years old in January, I believe. So anyway, I got into that right away. Didn't know anything about the business side, was kind of learning as I go, but forced myself to really to learn and understand, because this was before CrossFit was very popular. Then CrossFit became very popular while I owned the gym, and I was fortunate enough to have a lot of success, and the gym was crowded all the time and filled with people and high energy and a lot of fun and very, very, very busy. And I learned a lot during that time. So I owned the gym for about 7 years, and I learned a lot about fitness and health, and the depths of the human movement and the human body. But I also learned a lot about business and entrepreneurship, and I learned some really hard lessons, some great lessons and some really hard lessons. And I also learned a lot about myself, because I was, like you said, when I was 23, I was a kid, I didn't really know a lot about, being an adult and the deeper level stuff, and over those busy, stressful years, I learned a lot about myself and what really drives me, what really makes me happy, and where I really think I want to go on this path. And so it was very, very exciting and eventful, and it ran its course. After about 7 years, I sold the gym, and I went on and I tried my hand at a few other things along the way. Actually, I got into the media side of CrossFit for a while, which I learned quickly was not the right direction for me. But I did have some fun and learn a lot during that time. But then I circled back and came back to what really makes me happy and drives me, and that's coaching. Coaching, and specifically the health side of coaching, right? So, fitness was my focus for so long. And one of the things that I did learn in that time period, one of the many things, like I said, was that I was able to help a lot of people with fitness in a lot of ways. And what I realized is a lot of people, fitness was an excellent way to start their journey towards their health and their mastery and all the things they want to be. But it was far from the complete picture. And, so many would work so hard for so long and eventually just start to hit roadblocks they couldn't really get through. And this is common, as you know, in the industry. And we always think to do more fitness, more squats, more volume, more competitor programs, something like that. When I started realizing that the answers were really outside of the gym walls. And I didn't have a plan necessarily. At the time, I knew this was a need, didn't really know what to do about it, didn't really feel fully equipped to help, didn't have a system, didn't have a program, didn't have a lot of stuff. And that was one of the reasons I got out. I felt like I just couldn't really help to the level I wanted to. So when I started to, take some time to myself to kind of find myself a little bit for a few years, I had the luxury of being able to take time off and do that. I kept coming back to that question of how do I want to help. I love coaching. It's what I do. And I want to help these people in a bigger way, but what would it look like? How would I do it? And not to be too long-winded, but I was on a very, when I went into sold my business, one of the reasons I was incredibly burnt out, stressed out, just ready for a break. And then when I went into the media project that I did, things got worse for a while. It was like really it was all the things I didn't like about, was trying to get away from, like tenfold. So then when I got out of that, I took some time to really kind of find myself and ask myself some hard questions. And I went very, very holistic. I did a long extended fast, which for 30 days I didn't eat. And that, believe it or not, I don't know how much of the audience is familiar with fasting, but could open up a tremendous amount of intuition and deeper feelings that I had lost touch with. And as I reconnected with these feelings, I just kept being brought more and more back into coaching, and more back into wanting to bring high level health and holistic health to a wider audience. And knowing that we can do it better than what's happening right now in the industry. And that led me ultimately to creating the programs that I build now, which are what we call O23, or other 23-hour programs for fitness people outside of the gym, and how to bring full holistic lifestyle optimization to the people who are already working hard, already want to do the right things, are trying to better themselves, and are just not quite where they want to be and need to go above and beyond. So that's kind of the very, I guess, shortish version of the last decade or so of my life.
Awesome.
And why we're sitting here talking to each other.
Yeah. So we have very or pretty similar paths. Both started off in CrossFit. I never owned a gym or coached to the extent that you did, but I very quickly realized that people in the gym, like you said, it's a great start. But as we know now, fitness or going to the gym is like the tippy top of the pyramid. Like going to the gym should be that extra little pinnacle of an active lifestyle. If you live properly, you like going to the gym should be like a bonus. Yeah. Your life shouldn't revolve around the gym. How unfortunately many CrossFitters live their life. They kind of neglect the sleep. They're kind of aware of the eating, but not quite to the extent as we now know is beneficial. And they're neglecting a lot of things, which is why we created our programs to help people see the other 23 hours, right? So that's basically what we're going to talk about today, because we have so much, it seems like so much extra time now with the quarantine and the social distancing. People, if they didn't already have like a set morning routine and a set schedule through their day, or if they did and they got laid off, now they're kind of wondering what to do, right? If they don't have, if they're not living a purpose-driven life, like if they don't have their mission statement, they kind of might feel lost and not very productive. So on the other hand, there's some people who are kind of arguing that we shouldn't really be using this time to our advantage, right? Because there's people suffering. It's a pandemic. Like, how can you possibly want to profit or benefit out of this situation? And the first question I want to go over for this podcast is, why is it okay to use this time to our advantage? What's your take on that?
Question. Yeah, it's a good question. And it's true. The situation is very emotionally charged. There's just, there's a lot of emotions, and everyone is a little uneasy and uncertain. There's nobody right now that can comfortably and confidently say they know what's going to happen over the next few months, right? Or year even, or whatever. So that alone, with all that uncertainty, everyone's going to feel that, and everyone's going to be a little emotionally just distraught. So a lot of people have turned that emotion into, kind of like just, you can't, everything is bad right now, just accept it and just wait, right? And if you're benefiting from this in any way, you're kind of a whatever
Yeah.
dirtbag or whatever,
We can cuss, by
depending on
the
how
way,
time.
if you
Okay.
if you feel like it. Yeah.
Dirtbag is still fine.
Okay.
I'll stick with it. And honestly, of course, I'm sure I haven't really seen a lot of firsthand examples, but I've heard a couple of things, and I'm sure there's people out there that are going about benefiting from this in the wrong ways, right?
Of
There's
course.
either like really leveraging fear, making people seem like if they don't buy your product right now, something bad can happen, type of thing. And
Hoarding toilet paper, reselling it at a higher
yes, and
price.
people doing stuff like that, jacking up prices on home equipment and
Yeah.
whatnot, and um, that is kind of shitty, right? But that's going to happen. However, the situation is happening no matter what. This is what life is right now, and even though it might seem like quote life is on hold, it's not. It's not really on hold. Life is just different right now. And if you're the type of person that wants to maximize and optimize your life and constantly be moving forward, you don't just take a month or two off to sit around and wait, right? You want to use this opportunity in every way to move forward. So maybe you don't have a product or something that, maybe what you normally do or sell or deliver is virtually irrelevant right now. I would argue that it's probably not the case, but let's just imagine that, what you do is virtually irrelevant right now. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you're not going to make as much money right now, and just assume again that you have no real options to be flexible with it. But what else could you do? Like you said before, we have all of this time now, right? We have all of this extra, time and potentially energy and focus to devote towards other things. And there's a very, very slim chance that every other thing in your life is already perfect and doesn't need any attention. So that should be a time to be thinking nonstop, what can I do to benefit from this? This is my life right now, and I want to benefit and optimize my life. What could I be doing? And if you offer something that does help people in this time, either help people specifically in this time, then you should be hustling and selling more than ever. Because if you solve a problem and these people have this problem that exists right now, then definitely you're doing a disservice to the people you can help. And you can argue from an integrity standpoint that that's actually worse than selling right now, is not selling when you have a solution.
Exactly.
So, sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, real quick. I heard on the Tim Ferriss podcast, he was interviewing Ryan Holiday kind of about this same topic that we're going through right now, about how people can use this time. And Ryan Holiday said, "This is now a time for entrepreneurs and business owners. If everyone is sitting at home watching Netflix for the next 3 months, there's going to be worse economic damage from that than if people are at home being productive." So basically, he's saying that as entrepreneurs and business owners, it is our duty to be productive, because if everyone just sits at home and does nothing, not only the economy, but the whole world will basically collapse if the world just takes like 3 months off. Whereas instead, if we're using this time productively, improving ourselves, improving our business, improving our product, and with that comes selling it to other people who can genuinely benefit from it. Now, this is different if what you're selling is, like I mentioned, toilet paper or hand sanitizer, some random product that doesn't really improve someone's life. That's something else. But if you truly have a product or some sort of program that will help people dramatically improve the quality of their lives, then like you said, you're doing them a disservice if you're not promoting it. So another quote that I heard him say in that podcast is, other people were in the exact same quarantine as William Shakespeare, and they did not write Macbeth. So
right. I love that. I didn't know, I don't really know that reference real well. I didn't know that that's how that came about, but that's a really cool analogy there.
Yeah. So Shakespeare and Sir Isaac Newton were quarantined just like we are right now during the plague. And if you think for 1 second that they sat around, if Netflix was around, they would have watched Netflix. Like, no way. Like, they were being productive. They were improving themselves. And so it's definitely okay to use this time to our advantage.
Yeah, exactly. It very much is. And like I was saying, if you have something that can help, yes, it's kind of your duty. And if you have something that you don't think that people really need more right now, you still might want to ask is, are they more willing to want what you have because they have more time? If you help people improve themselves, maybe what you help them with isn't like this thing that is all of a sudden a need, but it may be more of a want right now because they have time and they have focus to spend on things. So and then if it's not one of either of those two things, ask yourself, what problem can I solve? Like look around, like every single day right now, there's, really in the past month, more kind of problems have come to the surface, or like situations have come about. They're like, shit, we need to figure out a solution like now to all of these different things all over the world. And that's how businesses start. Like a business starts by solving a problem, right? So you could even jump course momentarily if your business or whatever your main focus is irrelevant. You can be flexible and you can be nimble and say, what does the world need right now? What could I provide that would have value, that would solve a problem? And that's the beauty, I think, of being an entrepreneur in the first place, where a lot of people look at independent business and ownership as like, unpredictable or unstable. Like, what if something happens? And this situation would almost back them up, except if you stop to think about the fact that you're still in full control. Like, other people are getting furloughed and laid off with no backup plan. Now they're like, oh shit, what do I do? If you're already a problem solver and a business owner and you can be nimble, you already have resources, you probably have a website, you probably have an audience, you probably have outreach. Now you may just redirect it a little bit to solve a new problem. And that's how there's people whose businesses will potentially grow tremendously just by chance because they realize they can help with something they never even thought about before. And there's going to be a whole bunch of new businesses just that come from this, that are born from this in general, because they solve problems. And when you solve problems, it's okay to make money solving problems because obviously people are paying for it because it's valuable to them. So
Yeah.
I don't see any reason, as long, and the other thing is, like, as long as you're not like, really leveraging the fear, and like obviously you're not like spreading coronavirus somehow worse by your business, something like, there's no reason you shouldn't be slamming the gas pedal right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, but I don't care. I think that this current situation is well overdue. I think that we kind of needed a wake-up call, right? Because people were just going around living their soft, cozy, comfortable lives, and they took things for granted. Like, they complained about their job, about how they have no time, they don't make enough money, and then this happens, and suddenly you don't have a job, and now you wish that you had a job. So one goes to like gratitude. You should be grateful for everything you have. It could always be worse. And another thing, I think that because all these businesses are shutting down, it's going to kind of weed out the weak businesses, or the businesses that didn't actually solve a problem. And I think it's going to be a time for the great businesses to stand up and to show themselves. Another quote from Ryan Holiday in that podcast, he says, when stuff breaks down, real leaders stand up. So I think that this is, again, the perfect situation. All these businesses are collapsing. It's up to you now. If you want to be an entrepreneur or a successful business owner, then the ball's in your court. Like, you can either sit around not being productive, or you can double down on improving yourself, improving your business, improving the world. So we don't control the situation, right? We can't control the fact that there is this coronavirus. We can't control the fact that we're quarantined. But what we can control is how we respond to this situation. Okay, so you can choose to respond two different ways: unproductive or productive. And in 3 months or a year, who knows, whenever this quarantine is over, the people who chose to respond by being productive are going to be just light years ahead of everybody else who kind of took this time and just sat on their ass with it.
Exactly. And especially the ones that are waiting, they have this sort of illusion that all of a sudden we're going to get like, a text alert, like, okay, everything's back to normal and everything's actually going to be normal again, which may not actually be the case. This could be a
Yeah.
longer drawn out thing before normal ever really returns. But one thing I wanted to add to what you said there first of all, like I said, there's always, two ways to respond. And Ryan Holiday speaks about this quite a bit, being, a stoic, is that I'm sorry, that we're always, we may not be in control of the situation, but we're always in control of how we respond to the situation, react, which is like a fundamental principle of Stoic philosophy. This is the perfect example. So there's really not in anybody's control, not in any of our control at least, but we are fully in control of how we respond. And what you mentioned before that about almost being overdue, like for something like this, I agree with that. And you never, I don't want to say I'm glad it's happening, because I'm not glad it's happening. There's been many times during this where I'm like, I just really wish this wasn't happening. Like I wish we were just like normal life was going on. But obviously there's people who are in bad situations, and I don't wish on any of that. But we've always kind of talked about this potential as of like a collective whole, a collective consciousness, to use the internet specifically and our abilities and work together much better. And we always talk about like the potential of that and how it probably will never really happen. And all of a sudden in the month of March, or even March of April of this year, could go down as like the most creative and cooperative months in human history in the last decade at least, right? Where like people are legitimately working together to try to help each other, and people are connecting and teaming up and collaborating, and like things that probably would have never happened on their own because everyone's just like focused on like going out and just like making money and doing their business, are like coming together and taking things up a few levels. And you talk about improving the world, and I think there's going to be some things that come out of this where there's a lot more people that have stood up, like you said, and use their voice to be like to offer the world something, and team up with other people that offer things, and there's going to be just better options for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, we're giving Ryan Holiday credit for saying like you get to choose your response, but I don't know if he came up with it, but before Ryan Holiday, Viktor Frankl, at least to my knowledge, was the one who came up with in the point between stimulus and response is every human being's chance to choose their response. So for those of you guys that don't know, Viktor Frankl wrote Man's Search for Meaning in the concentration camps, the Nazi death camps. So
I didn't know that, actually.
What?
I didn't know that. I've heard that, the stimulus response,
from
but I didn't know about I didn't know him or his story. That's interesting.
Yeah. So horrible story. Him and his entire family were Jews, obviously, and they were brought to the death camps. And just FYI, I haven't read the book. I'm just going off of every single source that I've heard from it. So him and his entire family were brought to the death camps. Everyone died except for, I believe, his brother or his sister. One of them survived. His parents died. His wife died. All his friends, they're all dead. So you would think that somebody in that situation would just be completely broken, and like nobody would blame them. Like, of course, that is the worst situation that's probably come up in all of mankind. But what is so powerful about Viktor Frankl is he was able to find not more freedom, but more, what's the word? Not like choice, but I don't know. It's not freedom, because they didn't like have the freedom to go out and do whatever, but he had, I'm blanking on the word, basically the choice to choose how they responded to the Nazis' treatment. Because
Right.
the Nazis could do whatever they wanted
Hmm.
to their bodies, they could control the entire situation. But there's one thing that they could not control, and that is how whatever person, Viktor Frankl, responded to that situation. So it's
Right.
the same thing that's going on right now.
Right.
You, me, anybody else cannot control the fact that there is this horrible coronavirus, but what we can control is how we respond. So like we mentioned, you could respond by saying, oh, woe is me, this quarantine is horrible, I'm not getting anything done, I'm not being productive. Or you could say, okay, I have all this time, I want to be productive, what is it that I could do, and create a plan to actually get things done.
Right. Right. And
So
I think just those few questions are like, people are sitting around waiting. If they literally just took like 20 minutes and thought about some of those questions, or like just say one day, I took one day to really just like think about what can I do now? What's going on around me and what could I do? And really thought about it. The whole rest of the situation could be very, very different. But most won't stop to just really evaluate and ask those things and realize that they could be doing, like you said, like Viktor Frankl, they're still in control no matter how much control seems to be taken away.
yeah. And you guys have the time, especially now. You have the time to take even an entire day, an entire weekend to ask yourself these questions. What's important to you? What do you want to achieve in your life? How do you want to be seen? What do you want to be remembered for?
Mm.
And once you know the answers to those questions, then everything else becomes a lot easier. You know what your purpose in life is. You know why you want to wake up and to get your day going, to be productive. So this leads me into my next question is how prioritizing yourself can improve every other area. So not only your health, obviously, but your business as well. Because unfortunately, in the entrepreneurial world, it's all too common for people to especially neglect their sleep, thinking that they can, quote unquote, outwork
Hmm.
um, everybody else, which
Hmm.
when in fact it's just the opposite. So
Exactly, right. And it's such a common misconception. And there's like the whole kind of, we'll just say Gary V side of the world. I like a lot of the stuff he does, but there's that kind of just like feeling, and you see on Instagram, always like this hustle grind world where like people come, if they're younger especially, and they come into starting their own business or into the entrepreneur world, and um, they think that that's what it looks like, and that's what it has to look like. It has to be a sacrifice of yourself to get to where you want to be. And there will be sacrifices, yes, but it should never be sacrifices of your actual health. You may have to sacrifice or things that may seem like sacrifices. You may have to ditch some dead weight friends. You may have to give up, the late nights on the weekends out partying. So, but these aren't really sacrifices. These are just steps forward. But what you don't have to sacrifice or shouldn't ever sacrifice is yourself, because and we tend to see our business and ourself as two kind of separate things, when really if we're either an entrepreneur, solopreneur, indepreneur, whatever the word you want to use, or the business is relies on our effective, us to be at 100%, then we have to, if we're not at 100%, the business is not at 100%. There's
it's
no way it can
impossible.
be. It's impossible. Exactly. So with business ownership specifically, and even not just any sort of career where you're a high performer, you're going out and you're kind of in charge of how well you do. You don't just get an hourly paycheck or whatever. Optimizing yourself is always going to have a very, very direct correlation to the output that you have in the business. And with that business or career, like I said, there's going to be a lot of mental and emotional really battles that happen every single day, and a lot of big picture vision work and thinking and problem solving, high level problem solving. And that requires clarity of mind. It requires actual physical energy, right? So mental battles, or something I like to say is mental battles are won with physical energy, right? So if you're stuck on a problem, not sure what to do, or like even a situation like now, you're not really sure how to adapt or change your business to make it work right now, and you're thinking, if you're not if you're trying to go work through problems like that and you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating properly, you're not getting out and moving, your body, there's just going to be blockages, right? There's going to be blockages. There's going to be fogginess. You're not sharp, and you're definitely not going to have connection with your intuition. Like I mentioned, when I kind of, to flash back to what I was saying before, when the more and more I started taking care of myself, the more I was able to connect to my intuition, to see the bigger picture and see that vision of what I really wanted to do and what I really should be doing and needed to do, the actions I needed to take. If we're not, if we're filling our body with toxic chemicals and we're staying up late, like all of that is going to result in either indecision or bad decisions, or just lack of, just the energy and effort to get through the day, lack of time and focus. Like I know it's funny for you and I to talk about because it's like so obvious to us, right? Because because this is the world we live in. So not to speak about, like, to some people it might not seem quite as obvious, but any single sacrifice to our physical body and physical health is going to translate to sacrifice in our business, period.
Yeah. You can't maximize profits unless you optimize yourself. Like, if you are in control of your business, there's no possible way that your business can be operating at 100% if you yourself are not operating at 100%.
Right.
It just doesn't work. A couple things I wanted to touch on. First, I can't let you throw Gary Vee under the bus like that. Although I do 100% agree with what you were saying, but I have a quote from him that I included in my program.
Cool.
So here it is. A lot of people ask, how much do you sleep? And my answer is 6, 7, 8 hours. And it fucks with people because they think I'm sleeping like an hour. My point there is sleep's important. I don't know who thinks they're going to survive without sleep. So this is the end of the quote. So even somebody as quote unquote busy as Gary Vee still knows how to prioritize his sleep. Gary Vee is not an idiot. He realizes that he needs the sleep in order to do all these things that he's doing. Without it, there's no amount of coffee, there's no amount of whatever smart drugs you want to take to get you on that level. Like, sleep is the ultimate brain, business, body booster. Like, that is it.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I'm glad you clarified that, because I wasn't really, I didn't want to throw Gary Vee on the bus, but I know that he's someone that can bring up to immediately paint that picture of the hustle grind life.
Yeah.
But even like he says, people get thrown off when he says that, because based on how he talks, you assume that he's just never stopping, right? And it's actually the opposite, like he says. And so for me, the busier I get, the more. So and this was just happening recently. I have to remind myself, I fall into traps when I get busy, for sure. I'm not saying, this is easy balance, right? Because you're looking at very, very clear and distinct things you need to get done for your business, right? But that list is never going to end. You're always going to have things to do. But you have this very clear and distinct list, and you're like, how could I just go leave right now and go to the gym or go to the park or whatever? But what I've realized is the busier and busier I get, the more important it is to do those things. For me it's better for me to leave work early almost, or on time, go to the park with my dog or take a hike and do my normal down regulating kind of nighttime routine to clear my mind, get my body moving, do all those things. That's better in the long run than me working an extra 2 to 3 hours on the things I needed to get done, because the quality is not going to be there. I'm going to start to fade and fizzle out. And then for me, it's always the clarity of mind. When I leave my evening movements outdoors, always with my dog and stuff, I have things I've been stuck on, all of a sudden just seem so obvious. Things I've been stressing about, all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm just actually not even going to do that right now. I'm going to put that off for a little while. Whatever. Things just become clear because I took some time to just block it out and just be internalized.
Yeah. And that can throw people off who have been kind of brought up with this idea of hustle, grind, work till you drop mentality. But like you were mentioning, it's better to leave work a little bit early because it gives you the capacity to come back and tackle the stuff the next day at the operating at full capacity. Because if you were to pull an all-nighter, get everything you had done or get everything you had to do done for today, pulled that all-nighter. The next day, you still got stuff you got to do. You got to put out all these fires. There's still the to-do list, but you're operating at a much lesser capacity than you would be if you would have gotten your full 8 hours of sleep. So then it just turns into this vicious cycle.
Right.
So,
And when I owned my gym, I did not do a good job of that at all. I kept thinking that someday I was going to get my to-do list done. And
yep.
like, if I was like, I just get to this point, I'll feel good. I'll be able to relax. I'll be able to breathe. And first of all, it like never really happened. And even if I got close, I always just took on other projects anyway.
Yep.
So it was a very hard lesson learned that I again, still battle it because my instinct is to go, go, go. But I'm just so much more aware. And whenever I do the right thing, it's like so obvious to me. I'm like, this is what I needed today. I needed to just take a walk more than I needed to whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So this brings me to the next question is, so now that hopefully they understand that prioritizing themselves can improve every area of their life, how can entrepreneurs specifically maximize their time right now? So say they're an entrepreneur and they don't really know how to be using this time. Maybe they had like a physical location, now it's closed or whatever. So what could they be doing for when this is all over to make sure that they use this time wisely?
That's a good question. I mean, there's I don't think there's one like right or wrong answer. Obviously, progress, some sort of progressive habit rebuilding, right? So like either breaking habits, or building habits, or rebuilding, however you want to look at it, is the best place to start. So this is, it's a chance to kind of create that sort of perfect day scenario, right? And if they've never done that before, that I would start with that. What does, a perfect day look like? And when I, teach people to do this, we don't, it's not like, perfect day is like, on a yacht party with supermodels in the Caribbean, like not that kind of.
Not like fantasy perfect day where you can fly to Mars real quick, chat up with the aliens, come down here, and
right, like
realistic
like
everyday life.
Every day look like in like a perfect world. Like you get up in the morning, you have X amount of time to yourself or with your family or whoever before you start your work. When you do start your work, what would you work on first? Like what drives you? What creative stuff would you want to be doing? Your work should be a part of your perfect day, or you might want to be really thinking hard about what you're doing. How would you block out your day? What would you do midday? How would you, what would you do after work and downregulate? And that includes activities for yourself, things that move you forward, things that maintain your health and fitness, things that move you forward, like advancement, just reading and things like that. And then also your relationships, communication, like having time set aside with, your family, wife, whatever, to actually make sure that those things are every day, these conversations are happening, important stuff and whatever. Mm-hmm. So to start with that first is really important, but really try to narrow it down to the little, things that are holding you back. They might seem like habits that you just, you almost laugh at the thought of like not doing, like, oh yeah, right. I could never give up coffee, or I could never like, whatever, maybe it's a TV, computer, phone habits, things like that. Take some time, because usually it's like those are our escapes, those are our little vices, right, to help us deal with everyday life. Mm-hmm. Well, everyday life is very different right now, and everyday life can be a lot less, everyday life. Yeah. And we can take some time to try to break those vices and break those habits, and really hopefully have a two-way swing where we can break down a bad habit and rebuild a good habit in its place and have 180-degree type turnarounds. So if we could pinpoint and just stop and ask ourselves, what's holding me back? What is the, like, what would I have trouble not doing? Like, what's something that's not productive in my life, but I would have trouble giving up for a week, and do it, and like use a little discipline. Discipline is not what's going to help you forever, but it'll help you get started. use some discipline to help you get started, and experiment, tweak, turn around. You may realize, holy shit, I never thought I could give up my, Instagram for a week. And then all of a sudden a week later I have no Instagram. You're like, this is better than, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything at all. I feel great, right? And I have this new perspective. And if we want to make real change, we need to change our perspective first. And when we see a new perspective and feel how much better it can feel, then we're likely to keep these habits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So guys, like I mentioned, your business cannot maximize its profits if you yourself are not optimized. So with all this time, anything that improves you as an individual will some way, shape, or form, maybe not immediately, but sometime down the road, will improve your business. Okay. So whether that be reading, podcast, something educational, improving your health, taking a walk outside, getting the extra hour of sleep, even though it might not seem like it, that actually does improve your business because it improves you, right? So I would argue the first thing to do, because we have so much time now, if you haven't already, create your mission statement and your core values. Because with those things, you might realize that you were not in the business, or you weren't doing something that you truly wanted to be doing. And if you're doing something that you don't want to be doing, of course you're not going to be motivated to get up and start your day, because you don't want to be doing it. So use this time to figure out what it is that you actually want, what it is that makes you happy, that fulfills you. Okay. So for me, I'm sure you guys know my story, but I turned down a job in the Cayman Islands, a coaching job, and instead chose to go to Saudi Arabia simply for the fact that they paid more. So I was all about the money mindset. And so I got there. I liked it at first. It was great. But then I didn't agree with a lot of the higher up management style. And it's just not something that I wanted to be a part of, because even though I hadn't established my core values or mission statement, deep down, I knew that that was the person that I didn't want to be. And I wasn't going to conform to their way of doing things. So I left that, created my mission statement, core values, and now I do something every single day that I truly love. Like waking up is not a struggle whatsoever. I'm excited to tackle the day, and I love what I do. And the fact that there's people out there who don't love what they do, who kind of struggle to get out of bed to get themselves motivated, that hurts me. And that's part of the reason why I created this program similar to your program. We like to see people improve. We like to help people. And part of that, I would say the first step is finding something that you actually enjoy doing. So take the time, create your mission statement, create your core values, do stuff that improves you. Don't just use this time to watch Netflix, to, I don't know, what do people do when they waste time? Scroll through Instagram.
That's a big one. Yeah. Those are probably the two big ones, at least right now. You literally can't even really leave the house.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous advice. And if I could add one thing too, or just to add on to it a little bit, is like, once that happens, once you have that alignment, right, of where you want your business to be, what makes you happy and drives you and your passion, and where your knowledge and your passion kind of intersect, and like, this is what I feel best with, and I am best with, and I'm very passionate about. Once you have that, now you can align your work life and your regular life into kind of one plan of action, right? It all becomes kind of one thing. And I don't want to confuse the listeners by saying there's no lines between work and personal life, and like you're working all the time. Like, that's actually the wrong message. But your just general mission, the reasons you get out of bed every day and every morning, are aligned as that everything I'm doing throughout the day are making both myself and my business better. And it becomes one plan. Like, everything just kind of intermingles into one thing. It's not like, oh, I have this work life and this personal life that I have to like flip back and forth between. Yeah. It's just like everything kind of aligns into one big picture vision of where you see yourself in 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years, things like that. It all comes together.
Yeah. So I had a call with a pharmacist, and that's her job as a pharmacist to prescribe medications, or not prescribe, but to go to the doctors and give them information about this medication and like all that pill doctor
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And her as a person, she didn't like that because she realized that pills are not going to fix the problem. Most of the times they're going to exacerbate it, make it worse. It's like if you have a rock in your shoe and you're on a walk, it's like popping a few Advil or ibuprofen to get rid of the pain instead of taking your shoe off and dumping out the rock, right? That's what most pharmaceuticals do. Of course, there are some good pharmaceuticals for certain situations, but in general, the vast majority of pills that doctors prescribe you are not the best thing for you. So she knew that, but her job was to go and promote all these prescription pills. And I told her, I was like, you are never going to be truly happy, fulfilled, satisfied if you continue having this job. It's just never going to happen because you and the job are on opposite paths. Like you don't align. And so it's just not going to work. So you're going to have to find something. I know it might be hard. Of course, it's difficult to quit your job, especially if you don't know what else you're going to do. But so use this time to create a plan to come up with something for the future. You can't live your life. I mean, you can. You're just going to be miserable if you continue to do something that you don't align with as a person.
Right. That whenever there's conflict between what we believe we should be doing or what we believe is right and what we're doing every day, that conflict is going to show up in a lot of different ways. It can become very emotionally painful. It can many times lead to both health issues, but usually like addiction-based health issues, like overeating, overconsumption, drinking, drugs, things like that, because we feel like we need to escape. Because when there's a conflictual, no one likes conflict. Like whenever there's conflict, you want to get away from it, right? So when there's conflict in your own body and own soul, you feel like you need to escape it, and that is happiness cannot live there, right? It cannot live in a conflict like that. So really asking yourself those questions, like you said, and defining your vision and your mission and your core values. It's stuff where you're like, I pretty much know it in my head. Like I know what I want to do. Like I know what makes me happy. But taking one more step that could take, again, an hour or less to really write things down and be like, maybe I don't really know, and spend some time thinking about it, can be completely redirect the trajectory of your life and career from one simple little exercise, right?
Yeah. So it's not enough to just create a mission statement and core values. You guys have to actually live by them, review it every day until it becomes second nature. Like if somebody asks you your core values, you should respond immediately. Boom, 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 boom. You shouldn't have to, well, is it maybe honesty? You should know. So for me, like you heard on the last podcast, I have them taped up on my board over there and I review them every single day. And so it ingrains.
Yep.
So it's not enough to just make them. You have to actually, like I said, live by them, create daily actionables that you can do literally every single day to follow in that path. So transitioning a little bit to fitness coaches, what should they be doing specifically to maximize their time? Even though a lot of them might be entrepreneurs, have their own fitness business, it's a little bit more specific. If they're going from, say, CrossFit to online coaching, what should they be using this time for?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and obviously it's a topic I talk about quite a bit with coaches all the time. I've been spending a lot of time doing free calls and stuff during this last month or two, just to help people navigate, like what are my options? What would I even need to do first if I went online and stuff like that? To say it's a little unclear. It's very specific on where you are right now, but a few things that you need to know are that it was already very, very difficult to sell. So essentially you need to have virtual right now, right? You need to have some version of virtual or online. To say that it was already difficult to sell online fitness programming and make a living it was already very difficult.
Yeah, it's
Quite
so
difficult.
saturated.
It was already saturated. We as fitness coaches, we tend to take the same approach online that we do in the gym, where it's like roughly the same amount of money per month. I'll just do programming, blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't work like that at all. The selling process, the buying process for the opposite buyer is very different. They have thousands and thousands of options. They can't really meet you. They need to base their options off of like a phone call maybe and all this stuff. And it's not as scalable. Like in the fitness world, if I'm coaching a 6 a.m. class, if I have 3 people or 13 people, it's still 1 hour of work. Where online coaching, if I have 3 people or 13 people, that's 10 extra hours of work, which is very, very big, especially if it's going to be weekly or maybe even twice a week and stuff like that. So the pricing should not even be the same. It's a whole different business, right? Is really what it comes down to. It's a different product, a different service, and things like that. So that's one. Just taking what you offer in the gym and moving it online will not work. And most people are giving it away for free now anyway. So a lot of coaches are a little panicky about that because like they feel like, well, what else could I do? This is what I do. So I encourage you to take this time to actually answer that question. Well, what else could I do? What else do I offer? What are the things that my clients, that I do best with my clients and help them with most? Do clients come to me asking for other things? Do they come to me and ask me about food? Do they come to me and ask me about sleep or just general advice on life and health? The answer is probably yes. If you've been a good fitness coach, the answer is probably yes, because you may not realize it, but you're probably, as a coach, the most influential, if not one of the most influential people in your client's life when it comes to their health, because their doctor the relationship is probably no real relationship with their doctor, right? They probably go a couple times a year for 15 minutes. If they're sick, they get a pill, they get a prescription and they leave. Like they're not helping them fundamentally rebuild their lifestyle and things like that. So you might not know it and you might not feel like you have a whole lot to offer, but if people come to you for workouts and fitness consistently and feel like you've been bringing them success, they probably assume you can bring them success in other ways or would be willing to let you try, right? They'd be willing to trust you with more than just fitness. And so ask yourself, what is it, what else have you learned? What other books and authors and podcasters and things do you follow? Is it mindset? Is it sleep? Is it nutrition? Is it just even just kind of like biohacking type stuff or whatever? What else could I offer that goes beyond, maybe includes fitness, but goes beyond just fitness as well? And this is a chance to tap into that mental and emotional side of the game that they need. We know they need, and they already trust you. Like we said, they already had success with you, and they're scared to go get that stuff from other people. Nobody wants to go, the mental emotional stuff. It's weird. Like where would you go? Like you go hire someone online with like do you think you got to go off and be a hippie or something like that? Yeah. Right. But we can teach them that we can get into this stuff and still make it part of fitness and still be it under the umbrella of fitness. So really asking and digging into what you can offer is a huge first step, right? Like that's what we got to do first. Yeah. And then you have to learn, the strategy and the tactics of building a virtual business, of building an online business, which, like I mentioned earlier, is different. And there is differences, but they can be learned. They can be learned. They're literally just like learned how to structure, learn how to systemize, learn how to make sure the service is smooth, and then the sales side of it would probably be the biggest learning curve. But again, it's something that can be learned. And if you master that or take this time to begin that process, it's something that's going to be it's never going to not be relevant, even when Corona ends, right? Quote unquote. The world is going this way anyway. And if you want to be able to go beyond fitness, you should be looking to go beyond fitness no matter what. And you should be looking to at least have the ability to be virtual and online no matter what. If you decide not to use it or whatever, or you don't need it, things go back to normal, fine. You'll probably want to use some aspects of it anyway, but chances are the industry is going to keep shifting harder and harder towards these two things. And if you're not taking action now, there's a really good chance you're going to kind of fall behind and potentially, become obsolete.
Absolutely. And real quick, if you guys heard that and you were thinking, oh, that doesn't sound like me, my clients only ask me fitness related questions. Well, if one of the questions is like, how can I recover faster to come into the gym, or how come I haven't been able to get more pull-ups yet, or anything like that, and you only give them like workouts or little tips, tricks, accessory work that they can do on the side, that's not going to do them any good. If they're not sleeping 7-8 hours and they're coming to you for recovery tips, well, you're missing like the whole like picture. Like sleep is recovery. So you can't just be fitness, in my opinion. If you were purely a fitness coach and only worry about the biomechanics and the lactate threshold and all this nerdy stuff, you're really not doing them any good, because chances are they need help in sleep, they need help in nutrition, they need help, they just need somebody to talk to. So that's a huge one. Some people just want you to listen to them.
Right.
Like, the best part of their day is coming to you or getting a chance to talk to you, because who knows, they might be lonely. They might feel that you have this strong connection with them because they can trust you.
Right. That's a tremendous point. Because first of all, for the clients that hang around and talk all the time and open, the chances are they open up more than you expect them to, because they feel like they trust you. They feel like you're an authority and you really know this stuff. They, like I said, you influence them in this field. And the other thing that you said, which is perfect, is there's no possible way every single one of your clients is hitting every single one of their goals. So wherever they're falling short, even if it seems like a clearly fitness related shortcoming, there is going to be an aspect of there's going to be other aspects that play a role, right? Whether it's just, their energy, their recovery, their even just consistency and ability to focus and stick to a plan. Like all of these things can be solved from outside from this perspective as well. So, and then just, ask them. If you're not sure, if you don't think that they would like that, you can literally just ask people what they need help with. Like, hey, if, what's something that, I was talking with a very high level coach actually yesterday, and he was asking me, like, what's something you think, what was the word, the way he worded it? Like, we were being just kind of rhetorical, but he was like saying, like, what's something that you feel you could learn from me that I haven't taught you already? What's one thing I do that you would like to be able to do also? And then he also threw in one, which was smart, where he said, and what's one thing that, like one weakness or something that you see in me? Because I want to make sure I don't include that in our program or something like that. But basically, like, ask them. Don't be afraid. You might be surprised, like, oh, people will come back to you and say, I've always admired your whatever, or I always looked up to you because of blah, blah, blah. And it might still seem fitness related, but they still look up to you. They still admire you. You still have influence that can be used for good here, for good for them. And then, make them better, and then, make your career, evolve your career as well.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there. You want to tell them a little bit about your program? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but a little bit more about it and where they can find you.
Sure. So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at bcostello, Costello. And then there's 4 underscores next to my name, just like a bunch of blanks. I think you'll find it easy. I'm not sure. It's not a tremendously high traffic page. The business account, so the business is called 023 Coaching and Business Systems. And our Instagram page is 023_coaching_system. So 023, the letter O, not the number 0. And that obviously stands for the other 23 hours. And that's what we do. So one of the biggest, obviously we covered this a lot on this show, but a big problem with both coaches and practitioners is that we can never fully get our clients to where we want to get them because we only get 1 hour a day with them. So we teach coaches how to build programs or a program for the other 23 hours of the day so they can help take their clients to the next level and transform their entire business around that idea. So we help them build, first they go through our program to learn all of the holistic lifestyle optimization that we teach. Then we build their own self-branded immersion style program, an 8-week or 10-week or 12-week style course. And then we go into the entire business and sales systems of how to make that a fully independent business, either in person or remote or however they want to do it.
Yeah. So if you guys are a fitness coach thinking about transitioning into your own practice or moving online, I highly recommend the 023 program. It's one of the programs that I went through when I was in Saudi Arabia and realized that I didn't want to be just a CrossFit coach anymore. I wanted to do something more. I wanted to actually improve my clients' lives in the way that I knew that I was capable of. I can't highly recommend this program more. And with that, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of hopefully wake up the population, let them know that they don't have to be unproductive during this time. They have the ability to respond to this situation positively. So
cool. Yeah. And just like, I don't know why I just felt compelled to share this for some reason, but talking about mission statement and stuff, if they're wondering why I'm doing all this, the deep core is I'm working to radically redirect the trajectory of the human species, of human health. And that might sound like a really wild, crazy, unrealistic thing to do, but the fitness industry is a very, very powerful, if not probably the most powerful industry in preventative health, because we're the only ones that really even take any concern with preventative health.
Yeah.
So if we can build within the fitness industry an army of coaches who are really teaching true holistic intuitive health and teaching people that, taking them away from the kind of, how to live without the medical system that's corrupt and broken, we can have a really, really profound impact. So that's what we're working on. If anyone wants to join that mission, I'd love to have you. And hopefully we can talk about it soon.
Love it. Guys, I've joined that army already, so highly recommend you hop on that train as well. So yeah, that's all we got for you guys today. And again, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, don't forget, live the captain's lifestyle. Peace.
Thanks, Captain.